We just made a great settlement of the war with Iran, and we're going to be subject to finalization of documents, which should get done over the next few days. We'll probably have a signing maybe in Europe, and it's a great thing. Stock market's up 1,000 points. That means they like the deal. Oil's dropped. Oil will start coming down to, I think, even lower than it was before.
And that's President Trump on a deal with Iran. He said it could be coming in a matter of days after he canceled planned military strikes for last night in Iran. The agreement coming over 100 days into the conflict. The president says U.S. strikes have completely wiped out Iran's military. The president also said a critical part of the deal includes Iran agreeing to never obtain a nuclear weapon. Joining me now is Florida Congressman Carlos Gimenez, a member of the House Armed Services Committee. Congressman, good to see you. Welcome back. Your thoughts on where we are in this war?
Don't know. I'm usually an optimist, and even though the president is very optimistic about it, the one thing that I'm not really crazy about is that I'm not hearing that Iran not having a nuclear weapon is the number one thing, the first thing agreed to. I'm hearing more and more that that's subject to discussion a little bit later on, and that doesn't make me happy. I mean, I think Iran has another Lucy or two more in them. And what I mean Lucy is Charlie Brown and Lucy, you know, hey, we're getting close, don't worry, kick the football. And then you yank the football at the end. And so I've been seeing this movie for 47 years. And until I see it in writing, I guess I'm going to be skeptical.
Well, I mean, look, you know, it's clear that the president does not want to have to go and, you know, obliterate the country even more than the U.S. has already done. He's trying hard to do a deal here. Yeah. He keeps saying we're going to bomb them, and then he says, well, wait, I'll cancel that, and it looks like deals are close. But it's hard to trust the Iranian leadership, and we don't know who's running things. Is it the IRGC and the religious clerics or somebody else?
Exactly, and that's and exactly my point. Unless the deal that Iran will never have a nuclear weapon, and the way that we can enforce that is on page 1 of whatever it is going to be signed, then I'm going to be skeptical, because all they're going to be doing again is buying for time. Yeah, we'll sign. Yeah, we'll open up the strait. We'll do this. So you give us money. Oh, by the way, our stuff can be sold too, and then we're going to talk about, you know, the nuclear stuff. You know, I've seen that movie before, you know, a lot of times, and so I hope and I trust the president will not fall for it. And so again, until I see it, I guess I won't believe it. Even though I'm from Florida right now, I'm from Missouri, and you know, I just seen this movie way too many times, and I just don't trust the Iranian leadership. I just don't trust Iran. And you're right, we don't know who the heck we're dealing with, and so. I want to see the details before I say, yeah, I think I'm optimistic. Right now, because of the history of Iran, I'm skeptical. So, but I could be proven wrong, and I hope that I'm proven wrong.
Meanwhile, let's talk about what's going on in Congress. The president is now being forced to mull an executive order to extend Section 703 of the Foreign Intelligence Surveillance Act, or FISA. The House failed to approve a short-term renewal of the nation's surveillance authorities. 19 Republicans joined nearly all Democrats to reject the measure, despite the president's urging. Much of the dispute over the president's one-time choice of William Pulte for acting director of national intelligence. But the president now has formally nominated former SEC chairman and current U.S. attorney for the Southern District of New York, Jay Clayton, for the role. Congressman, how did you vote?
Well, I voted to extend FISA. I think that it's completely irresponsible not to have FISA go dark at the beginning of the World Cup here in the United States. And then I hope that nothing happens during that time. You know, if the president can use some executive authority to keep it open, to keep America safe, then so be it. But we need to extend the authority. Hopefully, with him naming, you know, Jay Clayton as the permanent director, that will lift the Democrats' opposition to this. They're always opposed to everything, no matter what. And hopefully that will cease, because this is America's security, and we can't play around, and we can't play politics with America's security. So we need to get this done as quickly as we can.
Well, you know, the House is not expected to vote again until June 23rd. So Section 702 will expire for the first time since it was enacted in 2008. I mean, you just mentioned the World Cup. I mean, there are a whole host of things where FISA and that extension could have had an impact. What are you expecting? The president will have to do an executive order, right?
Oh, no, absolutely. But also I expect that the Senate, I mean, really the holdup has been the Senate. And so hopefully now the Senate will say, OK, we will extend FISA. It was about to sail through until they had this issue with this interim director. Now that has been put aside, hopefully, we can, Senator Thune can get the votes in the Senate. And if that's the case, then the Speaker can always call us back so that on an emergency basis to get us back so that we can extend it over in the House. And so we'll have to see what happens in the Senate. But if the Senate doesn't do anything, there's no reason for us to come back because it takes both houses to approve the measure. So the ball right now is in the Senate's hands. Let's see if we can get that done, and then we can always come back on an emergency basis and vote on it as soon as the Senate does its job.
What's the issue with the Senate and why the Senate is unable to execute the president's agenda?
Because the Democrat senators over on the Senate side said they would not vote for this extension with Pulte as the interim director, and so they stuck to their guns and said they wouldn't do it. So the measure couldn't pass in the Senate. We tried to do an amendment in the House that basically extended it until July the 2nd. That failed because it needed a 2/3 vote. It was outside the rules, and so that's the reason that it failed. But if the Senate does its job and lifts the issue, and now it's gone, by the way, because he has named a permanent director, then we can come back and pass the Senate's version and then extend FISA again.
All right, let me get your take on Cuba. Secretary of War Pete Hegseth was there this week meeting with troops at Guantanamo Bay. He's warning Havana about acquiring weapons, Congressman. Your district includes Key West, which sits less than 100 miles away from Cuba. You're also the only Cuban-born congressman. Your thoughts?
No, we know that they have already over 300 drones. And so we know some of those drones have a range of about 600 miles, which means all of the southeastern United States is actually now threatened by Cuba. Cuba has always been a national security threat to the United States. We have Russian and Chinese spy bases there. Iran is operating there. I'm sure that Hezbollah is operating in Cuba. They are not our friend. And so what's happening there now is that the regime is collapsing economically. The people of Cuba are starting to rise up. President Trump has said that he's got his eye on Cuba, and once we finish with Iran, then he's going to turn his attention to Cuba. So hopefully the day of a free Cuba is close at hand.
All right, we will be watching that, certainly. Congressman, good to see you as always. Thank you, sir. Carlos Gimenez, stay with us.
See you too.
We'll be right back.